Algebra 1, Lesson 8-2, Multiplying and Factoring. Learning targets. I can multiply a monomial by a polynomial and factor a monomial from a polynomial. So the best way to learn to multiply a polynomial by a monomial is to actually see it in action. So example 1, multiplying a monomial by a trinomial, in this case 3 terms, our instruction is to simplify. That is going to mean distribute. So all of the techniques we learned in Chapter 7 are going to come in handy here, or at least many of them, as we distribute to each term. So the way this will work is the 5n will multiply the 3n cubed. So I have 5n times 3n cubed. We know how to handle that, as we'll see. I will have 5n times minus n squared, and then I will distribute the 5n to the 8. Now, looking at the constant part, which a lot of you got wrong on the homework in Chapter 7, we want to make sure we multiply the 5 times the 3 so that you get 15. N to the first times n to the third, when the bases are the same, we add exponents. 3 plus 1 is 4. 5 times negative 1, or times a negative, is a negative 5, so I have minus 5. N to the first times n to the second, 1 plus 2 is 3, so that becomes n cubed. And then finally, the 5 and the 8, 5 times 8 makes 40. So I have 40 and then just the n. So that would be my final answer. 15n to the fourth minus 5n cubed plus 40n. All right, so example 2 is finding the greatest common factor. I want to find the greatest common factor in the 3 terms of the trinomial, 5x cubed plus 25x squared plus 45x. The way to see the greatest common factor is the largest factors, which are things that multiply, that is in each term. So I'll be using a color to show this. So I'm going to break 5x cubed down. And that will equal 5 times x times x times x. And then 25x squared again using the color coordination here is going to be 5 times 5 is 25 times x times x. And then finally, 45x equals 9 times 5 times x. So you can see in each case we have 5x. So 5x is going to be the greatest common factor, which we'll abbreviate greatest common factor as GCF. So the GCF is going to be 5 x. All right, finally, example 3, factoring out a monomial. What is the factored form of 9x to the 6th plus 15x to the 4th plus 12x squared? So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I'm going to look at the factored form of each term. So 9x to the 6th equals 3 times 3 times x times x times x times x, and a couple more will give me 6. And 15x to the 4th will give me 5 times 3 times x times x times x and times x. I think you see where this is going. And then 12x squared equals 4 times 3 times x, giving us the GCD of 3x times x, or x squared. So we will pull, in a sense, the opposite of distribution is factoring. So we will pull the 3x squared out of every term. And what it'll leave us is the part of this that's in black. So in other words, I have my GCD three x squared times 3 and 4x's. And in the next case, I pull out the 3x squared, and that leaves me in black with 5x squared. And in the next case, I pull out my 3x squared, and that'll just leave me with 4. So when I factor out 3x squared from each of the 3 terms in the trinomial, I'm left with, in the parentheses, what is in black. So I can then pull that common factor, the opposite of distributing, outside of a parentheses. And what that leaves me is the values that are in black. So 3x to the 4th plus 5x squared plus 4. So if I were to distribute the 3x squared in red and blue back into the parentheses, I'd get what I started with. Notice there's nothing else that's common, because not every term now has an x, and 3, 5, and 4 have no number in common. So that is the factored form of that trinomial.